Hello guys, welcome to the new video. In the previous videos, we talk about what Flutter is and a brief introduction about its features. Now let's talk about the architecture of a Flutter app. So the core concept of the Flutter framework is that in Flutter, everything is a widget. Widgets are the basic building blocks of a Flutter app's user interface. So a widget can be defined as a structural element like a button, an image, icon, or a style element like a font. Yes, a font is also a widget in Flutter. Even the layout element, with the help of which we give padding and spacing to our other widgets, are also widget. So I think you got this concept nicely that in Flutter everything is a widget. Now let's see how an app is made with these widgets. Suppose we have this app which have the simple nice looking login UI, then in Flutter it is nothing but a whole bunch of widgets. This image at the top is an image widget which is referencing to an image file behind the scene. These two input fields are the text field widget, then this blue login button is a raised button widget. So we can see the UI basically contain a widget or a group of widgets. Actually, the whole page is a widget and even the whole app is wrapped into a main widget, and that is the root widget. And when we will work with Flutter, you will find that a widget is nothing but a snippet of code. An instruction will place in a code like, hey, please render an image. So we'll write like image. And yes, by this we are using an image widget, and this will render an image into our user app's screen, and our entire app is therefore built as a widget tree. Now let's look at the widget tree for an app having this login UI only. So at first we have this root widget, which is the main widget and the parent of all other widgets. All other widgets will be the child of this widget. Next we have the material app widget to give theme to our app. Then the scaffold widget, which is the first container widget having the two main properties, the app bar and the body. For now we are not using app bar, so inside body we have a container widget having a child, that is the column widget, which is having a bunch of widgets as its children, which are first this image widget, then two text field widget, and then a container having another column widget which is having two children, a login button and a forgot password button inside it, and at last we have another button widget for sign up. So in Flutter we deal with these widget tree, which is just a tree having widgets nested inside one another. Now if we want to look at a code for this widget tree, we will have something like this. Here I am only considering inside the scaffold widget. So at first we are having this scaffold widget which contains all other widgets inside it. So here you can see this is scaffold widget and it is having all its child inside it. Next, inside scaffold we have a container which wraps all the widgets inside it after scaffold. So you can see here that this is container, and we can find it after the opening and closing parentheses. Like for scaffold it is opening here and ending here. For container it is opening here and ending here. Then inside container there is a column widget having 5 children, an image widget, two text field and a container. Then this container widget again contains a column widget inside it and two raised button. And at last we have this sign up raised button inside this column. So this is how we will represent our widget tree in Dart code. Also, you might have got an idea after looking this that in Flutter there is no drag and drop visual editor for adding buttons or text to build the UI like in iOS development we have a storyboard in Xcode. Also, unlike other frameworks that separate views, view controllers, layouts and other properties, Flutter has a consistent, a unified object model, the widget. So in Flutter, we build our UI only with Dart code, and this way of making UI is called as UI as code approach. So we were having our UI and the functionality code all together in the same file. Along with UI as code approach, the Flutter also allows you to embrace platform differences, which we need in some cases, like if we want to show a different button in Android and iOS for the same screen. So we can check something like if the running platform is Android, run this part of code, and if it's not Android, run that. If it's not totally clear to you, don't worry, we will deep dive into this in upcoming lessons. One more thing I would like to tell is that Flutter does not use platform primitives, and what I mean by this is that in Flutter, suppose we are targeting to iOS and Android app and we want to place a button. So in that, with UI as code approach, we will write raised button and this will render a button in both the platform. Now you can think of it that behind the scene, when this code will be compiled to native code, the raised button will be replaced by native iOS button, which is the UI button in iOS, and in Android it will be replaced by the Android native button, which is widget dot button. But this is not what happens behind the scene in case of Flutter. Because Flutter has its own implementation and its own rendering engine, so Flutter ships with it and controls the entire screen and everything the user sees and renders every pixel on its own. So instead of compiling your code to some native equivalents or native alternatives, this is how Flutter works. And this gives Flutter a lot of control and flexibility. So if you don't get it completely, don't worry, you don't have to do anything with that because Flutter automatically manages it, but you should keep aware of that because it gives you a lot of power and control over the interface. So that's much for this video. Till next, cheers.